Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. Today we're starting The Crown Prince That Sells Medicine, written by the same author who created the world's greatest estate developer. This story takes place 300 years after Lloyd's time, following one of his descendants. If you love the world's greatest estate developer, you'll love this too. So make sure to subscribe, like, and turn on notifications. Alright, let's dive into part 1. Money for conversion. His real name was Hanley, a skilled medical doctor in the modern era. His lifelong dream was to open a clinic and treat everyone. After working tirelessly, he finally achieved his dream. But life rarely goes as planned. The COVID-19 pandemic plunged him into debt. In his despair, he jumped off a bridge, attempting to end his life. Fortunately, fate showed him mercy, and he was reborn as Lachiel, the frail crown prince of the Magentano Empire. He now carried unparalleled medical knowledge and skills in this new world. But could he heal an empire in his own weakened body? Let's follow the journey of Dr. Hanley as he attempts to change his destiny. Under a crystal-clear night sky, illuminated by a bright, full moon, a pair of hands intently scrolled through a small mobile phone. A prominent comment on the screen read, "Jean Woo's father here. I was terrified after visiting Clinic 20 in Korea. It seems like many infected people are going there. Probably because of the current COVID-19 situation. Oh my God, I recently visited that clinic too. It's full of infected people. I won't go there anymore. They're clearly not managing the outbreak well." Reading this, the phone's owner froze, forcing a stiff smile. "Ha ha," he chuckled despairingly, tears welling in his eyes as he stared down a bleak, hopeless path. "This isn't why I became a doctor. I can't believe that after 3 years of running my clinic, I'm drowning in debt. Why did the pandemic have to erupt right after I opened?" He wandered onto a bridge, drunk and ranting. "Why do they keep getting infected after visiting my clinic? Why do they keep commenting like my clinic is the source of the infection?" His steps faltered, his body swaying. "I didn't want this to happen," he mumbled. Only as he toppled backward did he realize his precarious position. "Whoa!" he exclaimed, his eyes widening in fear. Moments later, he plunged into the water below. Disoriented, he wondered, why are my feet pointing at the sky? Sinking deeper into the ocean, his consciousness began to fade. He struggled towards the surface. "I can't imagine what's going to happen next," he thought. After all his efforts, he succumbed to the cold embrace of the sea. To think that I, an ordinary Korean doctor, would become a divine healer in a novel. Suddenly, a series of zeros flashed before him, followed by a notification, "HP system ready. You can acquire HP from internal organs through healing. By investing your HP, you can unlock various skills or summon creatures." His vision blurred, unable to make out his surroundings. He regained a sliver of consciousness and wondered, "Where am I?" Seeing a shadowy figure before him, he muttered to himself, "Who is this? A rescuer? I guess he's here to save me after I fell into the Han River." Hanley's spirits rallied. He bolted upright, telling himself he could start over. As long as he wasn't dead, anything was possible. His hands trembled as he muttered, "Living with a mountain of debt is better than being dead." Before even taking in the opulent room before him, he yelled, "Next time, I'll be more careful." After a moment of observation, a sudden realization struck him. "Wait a minute, this isn't a hospital. What is this place? This furniture looks bizarre." Looking at the room decorated in an ancient Eastern style, he thought, "It's like I'm on a medieval movie set." Suddenly, a booming voice called out, "Your Highness." A middle-aged man looked at him, weeping with frustration. "Can you see me?" Hanley stared at the man by his bedside, cursing internally. "Damn, that startled me. Who is this strange foreigner? Is he crying?" He tried to start a conversation politely. Hello. Who are you?" The man, seeing Hanley's reaction, became worried, sweat beading on his brow. "Don't tell me you don't recognize me." Tears and snot streamed down his face, but he stood rigidly, declaring, "Even so, I will continue to serve you. I am Gadin, your private physician." The private physician of Crown Prince Lachiel. Gadin. Hanley stared at him, coughing slightly, thinking, What the hell is this guy talking about?" Thinking of his parched throat, he asked, "Hey, can you give me some water?" Before he finished speaking, a glass was presented to him. The man respectfully offered the glass with both hands. "Here you are, Your Highness." Hanley, taking in a man's swiftness, thought, wow, that was fast. Taking the glass in his hand and beginning to drink, a new realization dawned on him. Wait a second, this is real diamond. It doesn't look fake at all. It even smells like 24-karat gold. He then noticed the mirror in front of him, reflecting his own image. He stared, dumbfounded, at his beautiful appearance. Rosy lips, white teeth, blue eyes, and silver hair. Gadin, seeing him frozen, cried out, "Your Highness," causing Hamley to choke on his water. The man anxiously dabbed at Hamley's face while he remained in stunned disbelief, screaming internally, "What the hell? What the hell? Is this me? But this isn't my face." He sat quietly, tried to regain his composure. Remembering the novel on his phone, a thought struck him. Appied, Ariana, Magentano, Demon Sword Emperor, the novel I was reading before I drank. Recalling the time he spent sprawled out, reading, he thought, isn't this a character from that novel? A look of stunned disbelief spread across his beautiful face. He looked at Gadin beside him and called out, "Hey." The man respectfully replied, "Yes, Your Highness." Looking at the man, he asked innocently, pointing at his own face, "Can you slap me?" Gadin, taken aback by the request, exclaimed, "Huh? I think I misheard you, Your Highness." Hamley, undeterred, said with the same innocent air, "I guess I'll have to do it myself then." His hand moved with surprising speed. The man rushed to stop him. "Your Highness!" But it was too late. Slap! He delivered a resounding slap to his own face. His beautiful features, now flushed and stinging, were turned to the side as he remained in shock. He cradled his cheek, groaning in pain. Gadin asked helplessly, "Are you all right, Your Highness?" After a moment, regaining his composure, Hamley held his face and said to himself, "This isn't a dream." Cupping his flushed cheek, his eyes bright as stars, Hamley wondered, am I really the crown prince in that novel? Am I? Lachiel, recalling his haggard appearance in his previous life, he thought, so that means the mountain of debt and interest, the barrage of debt collection messages I had to bear when my business failed my lifeless eyes in that world. He closed his eyes, a thought taking root. Finally, I can. He shifted, a gasp of joy escaping his lips. Live a life without worrying about that debt. Suddenly, his eyes flew open. He fell back against the headboard, his body limp. Gadin rushed to his side. "Your Highness!" Hamley, ignoring him, asked, what just happened to me?" Looking at his own trembling hand. Even with such a simple gesture, he thought, I feel so weak. Panic seized him, a cold sweat breaking out. This body is far too weak for a 14-year-old. He stared at his frail frame, a chilling realization dawning. No way. He remembered the novel's plot, a wave of horror washing over him. For the first half of Demon King's Sword, Lachiel, the Crown Prince, is just a minor character. He's bettered from a young age. Remembering the tragic fate of his current body, his heart plummeted. And then, he dies at 22. Collecting himself, he called out Gadin. The physician bowed low. "Yes, Your Highness?" Hamley asked, his voice laced with anxiety. "How old am I?" Without hesitation, Gadin replied, "You are 21 years old, Your Highness." The word struck him like a thunderbolt. He bit his lip, a silent curse escaping him. Damn it. He sat on the bed, his mind racing. 1 year. His face was grim, etched with worry. When did things start going so wrong? Was it when I suddenly became a side character in a novel? Recalling the hardships of his past life, panic flared. I thought I could finally forget about that debt, live a life of luxury as a prince. But now, I only have 1 year left to live. He sat in silence, lost in thought. The crown prince must have received the best treatments in the world. His face darkened, a plan forming. If that didn't work, then he must have also received countless blessings from priests. But he still died in the first half of the novel, unable to overcome his illness. That means there's only one thing left I can do. Looking into the mirror, as if seeing the reflection of his past life, he called out, "Gadin." The physician hurried over, eager to please. "Yes, Your Highness?" Hamley, without turning, commanded, "I have something I need you to do. Bring me needles." His voice was firm, resolute. "Size doesn't matter. Bring me as many as you can." Looking at his reflection, he murmured, "I will protect this body myself." The image of the grand, opulent castle filled his vision. He gasped, taking a deep breath. Sitting on the bed, he felt for a pulse, but found nothing. Frustration laced his voice. What's wrong with this body? He tried again and again, but all he could find was this death pulse, leaving him baffled. Or what's also known as the 10 strange pulses. This bizarre pulse group exhibits unusual patterns, often found in those on the verge of death. That's why it's also called the death pulse. After taking his pulse for a while, Gadin anxiously delivered the diagnosis. If Lachiel showed signs of any of these 10 pulse types, it meant his internal injuries were extensive. He closed his eyes and sighed. This life, it's truly difficult. From outside, Gadin returned, breathless, carrying a bag. Your Highness, here you are. I brought all the needles I could find. Hanley, inhabiting Lachiel's body, offered a word of praise. Good work. Just set them there. He carefully spread the collection of needles across a piece of cloth. Observing the array of needles before him for a moment, he picked one up. Damn, this thing is as thick as a horsefly. Gadin, unsure of Hanley's intentions, hesitantly called out, Your Highness? Hanley, already heating the needle over a candle flame, reacted, turning to look at him. Gadin hesitated, then finally asked, What are you planning to do with those needles, Your Highness? Hanley countered with a question of his own. These? He gestured with the needle towards himself, a mischievous glint in his eye. Yes, I plan to stick them into myself. Gadin's face paled, and he grabbed Hanley's leg in a desperate plea. What? Your Highness! Tears and snot streaming down his face, Gadin clung to Hanley's leg, pleading, You mustn't harm yourself, Your Highness. Please calm down. You are the heir to the throne. Hanley could only stand there, helpless, as Gadin continued to wail. I understand you've suffered greatly, but you mustn't harm yourself like this. Finally, seizing an opportunity, Hanley interrupted Gadin. Stop. It's not what you think. Looking down at the physician kneeling before him, he spoke seriously. I'm doing this for a good reason. Continuing to heat the needle, he explained, so, if nothing happens after I stick this into myself. He turned back to Gadin, his face bright. Then from now on, you have to trust me. He pointed the needle resolutely at himself. Seeing his unwavering resolve, Gadin turned his head away in defeat. Then, bowing his head in submission, he replied, If you insist, Your Highness, very well. I will trust you. Hanley slowly removed his shirt, revealing his gaunt, skeletal frame, and offered a reassuring word. Don't worry too much. Looking around the opulent, magnificent palace, Hanley calmed himself, thinking the first needle will be inserted into the most crucial respiratory organ. Lying back on the bed, he relaxed and focused. I need to breathe properly before I even think about doing anything else. And to do that, the first point of the 12 meridians, he calmly selected the first acupuncture point on his body, the one most connected to the lung meridian of Hantayin. He slowly inserted the needle into the chosen spot. His first thought after inserting the needle was, ow. I don't know if it's because the needle is so big, but that really hurts. San Jiao Meridian, Fen Min Point, the acupoint cluster on the upper arm. Suddenly, he paused, a thought striking him. Wait a minute. He slowly opened his eyes, and a blue screen appeared before him. As his internal organs improved, the blue screen displayed a message. You may be experiencing a positive reaction due to your correct acupuncture technique. Organ function shows signs of slight recovery. Suddenly, his chest felt lighter. The blue screen displayed another message. Your lungs have begun to function again. 2 small, animated lungs appeared on the screen, dancing joyfully as if on a stage. He raised a satisfied thumb. The blue system screen displayed yet another message. Your lungs have lit up. Your lungs have granted you 100 HP. Hanley, bewildered, raised a hand, thinking right. A status window. Lachiel stared blankly at the holographic display before him. He couldn't believe it, tracing his fingers across the shimmering surface. Gadin anxiously called out, Your Highness? Unfortunately, Hanley was too engrossed in the mesmerizing display to respond. However, to an outsider, particularly Gadin, his actions of seemingly clawing at the air appeared utterly bizarre and deranged. Not to mention the occasional, incomprehensible mutterings, like a man lost in his own world. A status window, huh? Gadin clutched his face in despair, lamenting, Our mad crown prince. How pitiful. What am I to do? Determined to elicit a response, he hesitantly addressed Hanley again. Your Highness? He ventured. Hanley, seemingly oblivious until now, finally spoke, a hint of annoyance in his voice. I'm not mad. Stop overreacting. Meanwhile, Hanley, still in a daze, continued to insert acupuncture needles into his own body. Gadin cried out in alarm at the sight of Hanley's nonchalant actions. Are you going to insert more, Your Highness? Hanley reassured him. It's fine. As the last needle found its place, A notification window promptly appeared, displaying the message. You have correctly stimulated the Yunmen acupoint. Your chest tightness has been alleviated. However, as this is a physical therapy method, some sharp pains during the treatment are unavoidable. Hanley winced, a sharp intake of breath escaping his lips. Ouch, that hurts more than I expected. Suddenly, Gadden fell to his knees, clasping his hands in prayer beside Hanley's bed. Oh heavens, please watch over the crown prince of the Magentano royal family and heal his illness swiftly. Our crown prince cannot bear this sickness any longer. He's experiencing psychological distress and is harming himself. I'm going mad. The prayer, fervent and heartfelt, spoke of unwavering loyalty, leaving Hanley both impressed and slightly embarrassed. A flock of black crows flew silently overhead. Was the mad one truly the crown prince, or was it his attendant who had lost his mind? Hanley already knew the answer. He was the one being driven mad by them. Turning away, he thought wearily, I might as well finish what I'm doing. First, the Xiaobai acupoint, then Tianfu, Kongzhe, and finally Mayuji. A diagram of a body, highlighting the acupoints and their order of stimulation, materialized, mirroring his thoughts. The status window reappeared, displaying a flowery message. Thanks to your excellent acupuncture skills, numerous acupoints have been stimulated. Your lungs feel like they're sitting in a massage chair. Hanley grumbled at the bizarre comparison. A massage chair? And why isn't this giving me any health points? However, these acupoints weren't enough. There was one crucial point left. Finally, the Chai's acupoint. With that, he inserted the needle into the designated spot on his fingertip. Acupuncture on the left lung meridian is complete. Excellent. Suddenly, an image of two small figures, representing his lungs, appeared in his mind. They stretched their arms, stomped their feet, and began to sing and dance, accompanied by a notification. Your lungs are tap dancing. Hanley was stunned. What the? Meanwhile, the little lung figures continued their synchronized performance, relentlessly tormenting him and preventing him from sleeping. The premise, of course, being that he had to be awake to appreciate the spectacle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Don't sleep. Wake up. This continued several times until Hanley, his brow furrowed in irritation, finally snapped. So noisy. Just then, a new notification appeared. The organs responsible for intestinal activity are now synchronized with the lungs. Two children, startled, abruptly stopped their play and stared at the newcomer. He fumed, ranting and raving, demanding justice. What do you think you're doing? How could you not invite me? And with that, all three embarked on a whimsical adventure, precisely during the time Hanley, still trapped in the body of Prince Lachiel, should have been resting. He sighed wearily, glancing at a new notification. Useless, he thought. Your large intestine is joining the chorus and performing impressive dance moves. Hanley found a silver lining in the irritating interruption. While his large intestine's sudden, boisterous arrival prevented sleep, it also brought a benefit. Your large intestine has granted you 100 HP. Your lungs have granted you 200 HP. Current HP is 600. Hanley stared at the notification, his mind now occupied by the appearance of his large intestine, as he absently read the lengthy message. The HP you possess has reached the threshold to unlock skills. Unlockable skills depend on your knowledge and abilities. Do you wish to view the skill list? Hanley froze, momentarily bewildered by the term skills. Conjectures, like something out of a game, flooded his mind. Would swinging a sword produce a radiant arc of energy? Perhaps he could shoot fire from a staff after casting a spell? These were the powers one expected in a fantasy novel. With his thought, he eagerly selected yes. Of course, he wanted to see the skills. The next notification appeared, displaying the unlockable skills. The loading screen appeared, followed by a long list of potential skills. 1. Pulse diagnosis. 2. Acupuncture. 3. Cupping therapy. 4. Moxibustion. 5. Herbal prescription. 6. Herb identification. 7. Herb gathering. 8. Decocting medicine. 9. Treatment fee collection. 10. Astral projection treatment method. Hanley reread the displayed skills, a sense of familiarity washing over him. These were all things he had done in his past life. Choosing one based on this prior knowledge wasn't difficult. He focused on the foundation of all treatment methods, diagnosis. Only with a correct diagnosis could a doctor prescribe the right treatment. The image of Dr. Li Han, his past self, leaning thoughtfully over a cluttered desk flashed in his mind. Without hesitation, he selected skill number 1, pulse diagnosis. A confirmation notification promptly appeared. You have selected one. Pulse diagnosis. It was followed by a payment notification. Unlocking level 1 skill. Cost 500 HP. Remaining HP 100. A bright light flashed, then exploded. An instructional notification appeared. Your knowledge and experience have unlocked the level 1 pulse diagnosis skill. By sensing a target's pulse, you can assess their health status. You can view the results in the basic general health report. Hanley pondered this. A basic general health report. He would start by taking his own pulse. Thinking this, Hanley, as Lachiel, immediately set to work. Next up, the system word to life, parameters loading, pulse taking initiated. Scanning 100%. A basic general health report materialized. Details as follows. Target, Lachiel Ariana Magano. Species, human. Gender, male. Age, 21. Height, 176.2 centimeters. Weight, 53.3 kilograms. Blood type, A. Total 5 viscera score, F. Total 6 viscera score, F. Overall pulse diagnosis, S-rank garbage. Estimated lifespan, 91 days. Hanley, inhabiting Lachiel's body, was utterly dumbfounded by the system's blunt honesty and the flashing red critical alert. What the? He choked out aghast. Damn it. He clutched his head in despair, unable to help but curse his tragically short lifespan. I had a hunch, but is this body really only got 3 months left? Damn it all. Passing the buck is always the easiest way out, he muttered, his mind racing. Does he really think I'm just going to die like this? A spark of inspiration ignited within him. If I apply the needles clockwise, use a force reduction technique to rotate them, then exhale while removing the needles, utilizing respiratory support and a drainage method. All right, he decided, a flicker of hope in his eyes. The last thing to do is wait for a miracle. A notification popped up, signaling the resounding success of his experiment. Your lifespan has increased by 1 day. Lifespan, 92 days. Hanley's eyes widened, and he bolted upright. My lifespan increased. He stared at the needle in his hand, a thoughtful expression on his face. It worked. Let's try the other side. No sooner had the words left his lips than his body was racked with exhaustion, a wave of nausea washing over him, a clear sign of incompatibility. As expected, the ominous red alert reappeared. You may be experiencing stress due to frequent acupuncture. In your current condition, we recommend acupuncture 3 times per week. Suddenly, it dawned on him. Right, acupuncture isn't a cure-all. He thought of Gadin, his anxious attendant, more worried than he was. The eunuch faints before the emperor, he mused. He's practically passing out before I do. He needed to remember that this body was on the brink of collapse, its 5 viscera and 6 bowels ravaged by the relentless torment of spectral entities. The patient needs to be strong enough to withstand the stimulation of the nerves and meridians, he reasoned, but this body, it's too weak. After 2 trials, he'd reached a conclusion. The message confirms acupuncture is effective. The problem is this body's frailty. It needs 3 days to recover between sessions. If I do it every 3 days and my lifespan increases each time, I could gain another month. But that's still not enough. I'll still die too soon. I need a more effective method. A sly smile crept across his lips. A new method, ready for testing. He knew the quickest and most effective approach. Diet, specifically medicinal herbs. He let out a small, excited whoop. It would have been simpler if he were alone, but Gadin was still hovering nearby. Medicinal herbs? Gadin asked, bewildered. Your Highness, are you sure you're all right? Hanley simply nodded, then gestured for Gadin to come closer. Gadin, I have a task for you. Though uncertain, Gadin knew his duty. Please tell me. Hanley beamed. The medicine storehouse. It has higher quality ingredients, correct? Without missing a beat, he clarified what he meant by higher quality. Ingredients containing poison. Gadin hesitated for a moment, then replied with a hesitant, we do have that, but what you need is... He trailed off, seemingly searching for the right words. Ideally not present, but if it is a small amount would be acceptable. Hanley, in Lachiel's body, excitedly clapped his hands, cutting him off. We have it. We even have aconite root, right? Gadin answered truthfully, yes, although it's not kept in the main palace stores. We do keep a supply here in the Crown Prince's quarters. Hanley, relieved, commanded, good, bring it to me. Confused, Gadin asked for clarification. What do you intend to use it for, Your Highness? Hearing this, Hanley, as Lachiel, gave a small, knowing smile. He licked his lips with a look of almost unsettling eagerness, pointed at his mouth, and declared, to eat. Gadin recoiled in horror. clutching his head. Hanley, unfazed, repeated himself, "I'm going to eat it." A heavy silence fell over the room. Gadden immediately dropped to his knees, weeping and pleading. "You mustn't do that, Your Highness. How can you ask me to bring you something poisonous to eat?" Hanley tried to explain. "It's not like that. It's part of a treatment." But Gadden clearly didn't believe him, especially after witnessing the unsettling eagerness in the prince's eyes just moments before. "But Your Highness," he began, his voice choked with distress. Hanley cut him off, a weary frustration creeping into his voice. "Stop whining. Bring it to me. I'll give you 5 minutes. If you don't bring it within that time, I'll die," he added, his voice taking on a dramatic edge. Gadden's sobs intensified, and he stammered, trying to speak. Hanley sighed inwardly. He knew this was the only way to get through to the distraught attendant. Resigned, he decided to explain. "There's no other way," he thought. He addressed Gadden. "You know aconite root is highly poisonous, correct?" "Yes, Your Highness," Gadden replied instantly. "And so it's commonly used to make poisons," Hanley continued. "And that's what everyone knows. But few know there are 2 types of aconite root. The one I want to eat is the smaller root, also known as the daughter root. The aconitine in the aconite root can cause cardiac arrest," he finished gravely. He then continued, his tone serious. "Of course, I know that, but I know how to neutralize and control the toxins. In other words, I can turn that poisonous plant into a medicinal herb." Gadden asked skeptically. "Turn a poisonous plant into a medicinal herb, Your Highness?" Hanley replied calmly, "Yes. In another land, it's called detoxification. After detoxification, the toxins in the daughter root become medicine." "Are you convinced yet, Gadden?" Gadden answered honestly, "Not really, Your Highness." Hanley, exasperated, clicked his tongue softly. He'd talked himself hoarse, yet his words seemed to fall on deaf ears. He wondered when he'd become such a babbling, foolish clown. Then he heard Gadden speak softly. "I've never heard of this method before. I don't know where you got this information or if it's reliable, but if it will help you get better, I will bring the aconite as you command." Gadden bowed respectfully. Hanley stared blankly for a few seconds, surprised. He'd almost given up hope. Meanwhile, Gadden thought to himself, "His Highness's body is growing weaker by the day. We're desperate because no treatment has been effective in removing the poison. I suppose it's worth a try," Gadden concluded. He went to his room and rummaged through the medicine cabinets, gathering the necessary ingredients. He assembled them, still uneasy. While outwardly agreeing, he was formulating a countermeasure. "When the detoxification process is complete, I will personally test it first to ensure its safety," he resolved. Finally, the medicine was prepared. In the kitchen, a cauldron bubbled furiously, steam billowing around it. The inky black liquid within churned and released a less than pleasant aroma. Gadden spoke up. "Your Highness, it smells strange." Lachiel, his gaze fixed on the simmering concoction, didn't look away. "You still don't think it's safe?" he asked. Gadden, standing there with a helpless expression, replied, Well, it's because you made it with poisonous ingredients, Your Highness." He wrung his hands, the word poisonous echoing in his own mind. He bowed low, hands clasped together, practically wailing. "Please reconsider. I beg you, Your Highness." Hanley, startled, jumped back. "Damn it," he cursed inwardly. "That scared me." A mischievous thought sparked in his mind. "Let's see how he reacts to this." Looking at Gadden's worried face, he said playfully, "If you're so afraid, why don't you try it first?" To his surprise, Gadden's face lit up, not with fear, but with an almost eager acceptance. "Certainly, Your Highness." Hanley, taken aback by this unexpected reaction, felt a jolt of surprise, like a sudden flash of lightning. His eyes widened, his mind racing. He recalled the storyline of the novel, back when his frail body was still bedridden. In the book, Gadden was fiercely loyal and devoted. He remembered Gadden's solitary figure, always hovering in the background, observing. He wasn't originally the royal physician, but the royal physician's assistant. He remembered the hands that had initially reached out, offering a glimmer of hope. Even those initially confident physicians had eventually given up, their numbers dwindling until only one unwavering hand remained. But Gadden was the only one who stayed by Lachiel's side, he thought. Remembering Gadden's tireless care for this body, he reaffirmed his understanding of the man's character. A fleeting memory of Gadon's fate in the novel surfaced. In the end, he was blamed for the Crown Prince's death and executed. He watched Gadon, still standing there, resolute and composed. Observing him from behind, Hanley reflected, he truly is a steadfast man. Someone as loyal as him deserves a better life. Looking back at the steaming cauldron, a dangerous glint entered his eyes. He licked his lips, but I'm certainly not sharing something this good with him. The covered pot simmered for a long while. Then, the liquid was carefully strained, separating the dregs from the potent brew. The medicine, derived from ephedra and asarum, was finally ready. Hanley's eyes gleamed with satisfaction as he looked at the bowl in his hands. Done. Gadon, hovering nearby, inquired, "So, I just drink it now, Your Highness?" Hanley, brimming with energy, gestured as he spoke. "Gadon, I know you're eager, but you have to wait. This needs to cool down before you can drink it." Gadon looked puzzled. "Cool down? But how do you know all these remedies, Your Highness?" A thought struck Hanley. Gadon's loyalty is to the real Lachiel. This could be problematic if he realizes I'm not him. "So," Hanley began, feigning a rambling, almost nonsensical air. "I'll just play dumb and spin a long, confusing tale. You see, there's this mage. Visits me in my dreams every night. And he says to me, 'Lachiel Ariana Magano, look at how frail you are. You can barely lift a leaf. Every time I see you, I sigh with such sorrow. This is a secret. Mind you, haven't even told, well, anyone. Blah, blah, blah." He trailed off, internally congratulating himself on his performance. Gadon, however, remained attentive, listening intently. "So, a mage visits you in your dreams," he summarized. Hanley, seeing Gadon's serious expression, thought with a touch of exasperation, "He doesn't believe me at all, does he?" Seeing no further way to dissuade him, Gadon covered his face with his hands. I find this medicine highly suspect, Your Highness." Hanley seized the opportunity. Now, his slender fingers darted towards the bowl. Snatching the bowl, he drained it in one long gulp. Gadon, witnessing the rapid consumption, froze, stammering, unfazed. Hanley wiped his mouth with the back of his hand, clutched the empty bowl, and let out a satisfied sigh. Turning to the still trembling Gadon, he declared, "I drank it all." A flash of blue light flickered in his eyes. Feeling a shift within his chest, Hanley realized something was happening. Something's changing. The system interface materialized, displaying a notification. "You have consumed a perfectly brewed medicine made from ephedra and asarum. These herbs have eliminated the cold, energy, and internal aches within your body, simultaneously increasing your metabolism. The Astrahan core has awakened." Hanley's eyes widened at the final message. "Astrahan core," he murmured, intrigued. Astrahan core, a technique created by the legendary sword master, J.V. Astrahan. He recalled the lore surrounding the technique and the noble family it belonged to, the Loi Frontera. This technique is only passed down through the direct lineage of the Magentano royal family. It's a symbol of their royal power. A thought struck him. Since this body's true owner is the Crown Prince, he must have learned the Astrahan core from a young age. Another system notification appeared. Astrahan core skill unlocked. Hanley stood frozen in the kitchen, processing the information. A cascade of notifications followed. Skill name, Astrahan core. Level 1, current circle level 1/1. It will process or increase mana absorption for circles around the heart. Mana circulation. Mana increased by 120%. HP required for level up, 1000. Current HP, 100. A beautiful azure mana began to coalesce around his heart, mending the surrounding tissue. Hanley silently observed the changes within his body. "It feels like a warm donut is enveloping my heart. I can feel life coursing through me with every breath." A jade-green light began to emanate from him. "So this is mana," he marveled. Looking at the system interface, a triumphant grin spread across his face. "Wow, this is incredible." Suddenly, the empty bowl slipped from his grasp and shattered on the floor. He clutched his chest, a wave of discomfort washing over him. "What's happening? It feels like my heart is being squeezed." He collapsed his knees, trembling. "It feels like it's about to explode. The circle around my heart." Gadon, alarmed, rushed to his side. "Your Highness, His face darkened with worry as he watched Hanley, unleashing a torrent of anxious shouts. The incessant yelling grated on Hanley's nerves, his pupils contracting in annoyance. This is such a hassle, he thought, gritting his teeth. Suddenly, a cascade of crimson warnings blazed across the system interface. Warning: mana circle exerting excessive pressure on the heart. Danger: equilibrium between mana circle and heart compromised. Warning: risk of cardiac arrest. Finally able to draw a breath, Hanley braced himself on the ground, his body trembling as his mind raced. Equilibrium compromised. That means the size of my heart and the mana circle are incompatible. He recalled the frailty of this body in its youth, the lonely hours spent confined to bed. Like Lachiel, he had been sickly since childhood, never given the opportunity to cultivate his mana circle. Feeling the relentless constriction around his heart, he considered the mana circle. It felt like a tight ring, slowly suffocating him. He placed a hand over his left breast, his expression grave. If that's the case, he regulated his breathing, gently coaxing his mana to life. There's only one option. He couldn't shrink his heart. I need to delve inward, explore this body, become a miniature version of myself, navigating the inner workings. He solidified his resolve. I need to reduce the size of the mana circle. He moved towards the location of his constricted heart, each step purposeful. He quickened his pace, his thoughts racing. I need to increase the rotational speed of the mana circle. Reaching the pulsating blue ring, he grasped it firmly. With all his might, he began to stretch it, pulling it outwards. Make it spin like mad, he urged himself. Keep stretching. Create space for the heart. Panic flared. Damn it, I'm going to pass out. He persevered, drawing strength from the memory of his past life. This pain is nothing compared to my failure in Korea. The rumors, the clinic branded a disease epicenter, the devastating loss of his patients. The clinic shuddered, the mounting debt, the collection notices. He remembered the agonizing weight of it all, the image of himself sitting alone, running his hands through his thinning hair. The burdens of his past life fueled him. The rent, the loans, the ever-increasing interest. He'd even mortgaged his home. A surge of power coursed through him. Damn it, he roared, straining against the mana circle with every ounce of his being. My beautiful house. Trembling, he pressed on, sweat drenching his body. He refused to yield. Don't underestimate. His grip on the mana circle tightened. Inch by agonizing inch, his legs continued to push. Finally, after an eternity of effort, the mana circle expanded, perfectly reshaped. Sweat streamed down his face, his breath coming in ragged gasps. But his eyes held a steely determination. The self-made entrepreneur from Korea. Finally, his heart beat steadily. His legs buckled, sending him sprawling backwards. Gadden cried out in alarm. Hanley sat there, gasping for air, as a new message appeared on the system interface. Beneficial stimulation acquired. King of organs, heart awakened. Just then, a pair of powerful legs strode into the room. A booming voice announced, "The king has arrived." A vibrant, pulsing heart was tattooed on his bulging bicep, bathed in dazzling light. A palanquin borne by 4 figures approached. Below, a throng of onlookers waited with bated breath for the appearance of its occupant. Slowly, the doors began to open. A young man with fiery red hair, a sculpted physique, and a swaggering demeanor emerged, arms crossed casually over his chest. He paused, bringing a hand to his face in a series of awkward, almost comical poses. Illuminated by the spotlight, the young man preened, thrusting his chest forward with an almost blindingly bright smile. This radiant figure was Lachiel, the heart of the rebellion. An older, weathered man placed a hand to his forehead and bellowed, "My lord, I'm overjoyed you're safe." The surrounding crowd erupted in excited murmurs, some stifling laughter, others pointing and whispering about the ragged figure in such a dilapidated setting. Lachiel, standing before them, puffed out his chest and declared, "Greetings, you ragged lot." Snapping back to reality, Lachiel clenched his trembling hands. A faint smile touched his lips. All right, he conceded. Apologies for this shabby appearance. Satisfied, suddenly, his eyes widened, as if struck by a sudden realization. A system notification flashed before him. Growth equilibrium achieved between mana circle and heart. For the first time in history, you have acquired a mana slot. Slot 010L/10L. Confusion clouded his features. He pictured a game interface, questioning aloud, a slot like an item slot in a game? is that it? Your Highness. Gadin ventured cautiously. Raphael bolted upright, a sudden intensity radiating from him, startling the older man. Yes, he replied simply. Gadin, taken aback by the vibrant energy emanating from Raphael, stammered, You seem invigorated, Your Highness. Gadin's brow furrowed with concern. But earlier, you seemed in pain. Was that a side effect of the medicine? Raphael chuckled, scratching his head. I just choked a bit, he explained, dramatically clutching his throat to demonstrate, much to Gadin's horror. Like this. Your Highness, please don't do that. Gadin cried, alarmed. Gadin's gaze fell upon the shattered fragments on the floor, guilt etched on his face. Just now, your condition seemed critical. I knew it. I should have taken it first. Raphael sighed, pointing a playful finger at the older man. You wanted to drink poison that badly? Fine. I'll let you have the next dose. Gadin's jaw dropped, his face paling. That's not what I meant, Your Highness. Raphael turned to leave, waving a dismissive hand. Well then, clean this up. I'm going to rest. Gadin obediently began gathering the shards. Raphael paused after a few steps, then turned his head at a 60-degree angle, a dazzling, almost angelic smile gracing his lips. Thank you, Gadin. Gadin froze, his eyes widening in disbelief. What? He stammered. Raphael continued walking, a slight flush creeping up his neck. If he didn't hear me, just forget it. But Gadin couldn't shake the unsettling thought. The poison, it must have affected his mind. Is he even worse off now? Raphael clutched his chest, a thoughtful expression on his face. If what I think is true, a grin spread across his face. Then I've just gained something incredible. Alone in his chambers, Raphael murmured, Mana slot, a technique for storing substances infused with mana. He sat in meditation, a soft blue light emanating from his body. Each slot holds 10 liters, he whispered. The system notification reappeared, slot 010L/10L. He began to theorize. I can store it by ingesting it from my mouth, down the esophagus, into the stomach. Certainty filled his voice. That means I can store it by eating it. With newfound resolve, he rose from his bed and began a pace. Cariel's eyes scanned the room, searching for anything edible. He spotted water in a glass carafe and brought a hand to his chin, considering. Water, he mused, was the perfect substance for such an experiment. 2 liters, he estimated, was about the average lethal dose. It was a term used to determine the toxicity of a substance, the amount that would kill 50% of test subjects. He squinted at the carafe, appraising it. Simply put, there was a 50% chance it would kill him. And if it didn't kill him outright, it would likely cause immense pain or leave him a vegetable. For a standard weight of 60 kilograms, the median lethal dose would be around 5.4 liters of water. For his weight, it was closer to 3.9. He picked up the carafe, his hand trembling. It's so heavy, he groaned. I'm going to die with this wretched body of mine. Without another word, he tipped the carafe back and drank deeply. His eyes fluttered open. I want to know how much water I'm drinking, he murmured. A moment later, he let out a gasp. The system promptly notified him, number 1 slot, 1 liter out of 10. It worked, he exclaimed, a grin spreading across his face. He stared at the empty carafe. I don't feel a thing, he marveled. Maybe I should drink a little more. And so, one by one, Cariel emptied every water container in the room. The empty vessels lined the table in a neat row. He rubbed his chest in frustration. I drank 10 liters, but I don't feel anything different. But the system told a different story. Slot number 10, 10 liters out of 10. Withdraw 0.1 liters. A blush crept up his neck, and a look of satisfied contentment settled on his face. A wave of comfort washed over him. Ooh, he sighed. I feel like a human camel. I could take out as much water as I want. He propped his chin on his hand, thinking, now I know how to use it. I want to try herbal medicine. But what do I do with all this water? I'll die if I immediately release 9.9 liters inside my body. He crossed his arms, hunched over, and stared at the floor. Is there nothing I can do? Suddenly, his eyes widened in realization. Oh, his gaze shifted to the water jug on the nightstand. That's right. A daring idea sparked in his mind. Astrahand core technique. He extended his hand, and a blue light emanated from his body. Specialization, absorption, amplification, and release of mana. His eyes widened. amplification and release. Let's try using it. He thought, what if I release it outside my body instead of inside? Amplify mana and release the power overflowing throughout my body. The energy converged in his palm, forming a sphere of water-like blue mana. He gaped in astonishment. He manipulated the sphere with a flick of his wrist. I did it, he cheered. Now I just need to put it in the jug. Cariel carefully approached the jug, guiding the mana towards it. Suddenly, the jug shattered into pieces. Cariel stood frozen, unable to control the power. The mana and the shards of glass hung, suspended in midair. His face went slack. Ah, he whispered, staring at the debris scattered around him. What just happened? This wasn't supposed to happen. His thoughts were simple. I thought it would flow slowly like a water fountain. He mumbled dejectedly, trudging back to bed. Why did it turn into a water spout? Suddenly, a flurry of footsteps pounded towards the room from outside. Panic rippled through the guards stationed there. There's a loud noise coming from the prince's chambers, someone cried. Without a word, a group of guards flung open the doors and burst inside. Gadden, his face pale and slick with cold sweat, roared, "Your Highness, are you all right?" He bombarded Lachiel with anxious questions. Was it a terrorist attack? Who would dare attack your Highness? Lachiel, equally startled, quickly tried to explain. Oh no, it wasn't like that at all. His face flushed. Cariel frantically thought, what excuse should I make? He scratched his head sheepishly. Well, you see. Then, like a madman, he reenacted his previous actions. I got a little angry and smashed the vase on the table. That's what caused the loud noise. Sorry about that. The guards exchanged dubious glances but remained silent, none daring to question him further. Seeing their skeptical expressions, Cariel rubbed his mouth, a wry smile playing on his lips. That excuse didn't work, huh? Even I think it sounds stupid. Suddenly, a guard placed a hand on his chest and said respectfully, "It's all right, Your Highness. Are you injured in any way?" Cariel, feeling a pang of guilt, stammered, "Huh? Oh, my hand, just a small scratch." Inwardly, he marveled they actually bought that. The guard continued, addressing Gadden. "Sir Gadden, please escort His Highness to bedroom 2. Gadden nodded. "After I bandage his wound, I will take him there." Cariel, carried on Gadden's back, wore a smug grin. That excuse was pretty flimsy, but they still believed me. Is it because I'm the prince? He was quickly transported to another room, bedroom 2 in the annex. After being placed on the luxurious bed, Gadden bowed respectfully. "Please rest well, Your Highness." Cariel thought blissfully, are these the perks of royalty? He turned to Gadden. You should get some rest too. Now alone in the spacious room, he raised his hand, examining it and recalling the earlier incident. He realized that the ring and meridians around his heart, the flow of mana, had coursed through his shoulder and arm, amplifying and then erupting. Resting his head on his hand, he pondered. That burst contained a lot of energy. He let out a sigh of relief and slowly drifted off to sleep. I need to sleep before I cause any more trouble. From now on, I have to be more careful with my experiments. No one will discover what I'm planning. Elsewhere, beneath a storm-racked sky, within a gloomy castle, a voice filled with astonishment echoed. Hasn't Lachiel been acting strangely lately? Upon the throne sat a man of imposing presence, Emperor Lachiel Testuosa Magentano. The speaker respectfully reported, "Yes, Your Majesty. The prince has injured himself with needles. He even drank poison." Hearing this, the emperor flew into a rage. He gritted his teeth, seething. Lachiel, his eyes blazing with fury, he demanded, "What in the world are you doing?" The next day, Cariel awoke early. He stood before a massive cauldron, looking at the prepared ingredients and the simmering concoction, steam billowing upwards. A triumphant grin spread across his face. "Excellent. I've finished preparing 10 liters of medicinal decoction from ephedra and ashram." Then, he pointed towards the door and asked Gadden, "Could you step outside for a moment?" Gadden, curious, replied, "Yes, Your Highness, but what for?" Cariel smiled faintly, picturing the scene about to unfold. "Because you'll faint if you see me drink all of this at once." He made a few dismissive gestures and said softly, "Just for a little while. I need to do something by myself." Gadden's eyes narrowed suspiciously. "Are you planning to drink that again, Your Highness?" Looking at the large pot, Gadden anxiously advised, "But Your Highness, didn't you experience a great deal of pain when you drank it yesterday?" Cariel tried to explain. "I told you, it was just because I choked." Gadden bowed nervously. "We brewed a much larger batch this time, so I'm quite worried." Cariel winked reassuringly. "I told you, this is just for an experiment. I'll only drink a little. I just don't want to waste it after you went to all the trouble of making it. Faced with Cariel's persuasive, if untrue, words, Gadden finally scratched his head, seemingly convinced. Is that so, Your Highness? Cariel smoothly continued. Of course. I couldn't possibly drink all of this. Gadden tapped his head, as if a thought had just struck him. Right. Only a madman would do something like that. Hearing this, both of the guards standing nearby laughed. Ha. Gadden stood there, chuckling heartily, but he didn't notice the look on Cariel's face, which had long since gone blank. Losing his patience, Cariel kicked Gadden out the door, sending him sprawling onto the floor with a bewildered expression. The door slammed shut, leaving Gadden in a cold sweat, utterly confused. Turning back, Cariel breathed a sigh of relief. Holding the pot of medicine, he eagerly muttered, "Let's begin." Despite his seemingly frail frame, he began to tremble. "It's so heavy." Without further hesitation, he brought the pot to his lips and gulped down the contents. Drop by drop, the liquid flowed down his throat. The system continuously notified him. Mana slot 1, 1L/10L, 2L/10L, 4L/10L, 6L/10L. Finally, it reached its maximum, 10L/10L. Finished, Cariel slammed the pot down on the table, his face flushed with a satisfied vigor. Excellent. Now I just need to release it little by little. With that, he strode down the hallway. The system announced, Ephedra and Asarum decoction released, 0.1L. First, he went to the restroom. Ephedra and Asarum decoction released, 0.1L. After relieving himself, he stretched and climbed into bed for a good nap. The system announced again, Ephedra and Asarum decoction released, 0.1L. A series of notifications continued to update. Your heart loves this. Your heart has given you 100 HP. Your lungs are dancing. Your lungs have given you 200 HP. Your bladder is doing jumping jacks with your sphincter. Your bladder has given you 100 HP. Looking at his 500 HP, Cariel bit his fingernails, thinking, still not enough. I must increase my lifespan. A barrage of notifications popped up. Ephedra and Asarum decoction released, 0.1 LX10. Ephedra and Asarum decoction released, 0.1L. Ephedra and Asarum decoction released, 0.1L. And many more similar notifications followed. Inside his body, his heart lounged happily, watching television. His stomach stood behind him, resting its arms on his head and asking arrogantly, "Hey, what's on the menu today?" His large intestine raised a hand in greeting, cheerfully reporting, "It's a decoction of Ephedra and Asarum, Your Highness." Cariel, already weary of the constant reports, asked irritably, "And what about tomorrow morning?" The intestine, undeterred, replied, "It's also a decoction of Ephedra and Asarum, Your Highness." Cariel's heart, dark as a burnt pot bottom, lurched as he sat up in bed. Ever the optimist, his stomach chimed in, "It seems tomorrow's dinner will also be a decoction of Ephedra and Asarum." A system warning flashed before Cariel's eyes. Your internal organs are becoming saturated with Ephedra and Asarum decoction. Cariel squeezed his eyes shut and cursed inwardly. "I'll give you whatever I damn well please. Just drink it." He continued to consume the Ephedra and Asarum decoction, liberating another liter. Cariel sat at the dining table, laden with a rich and nutritious spread. A spoon dangling from his lips, he watched as a blue screen materialized before him. A welcome message appeared. Your lifespan has been extended by 50 days. Current lifespan, 133 days. Overjoyed, he slammed his hand on the table and leapt to his feet, exclaiming, "It's working." His sudden outburst startled the serving maid, causing her to lose her grip on the tea tray. It clattered to the floor, shattering into pieces. Composing himself, Cariel offered a polite apology. "I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to frighten you." The maid, trembling, bowed deeply and stammered, "Please forgive me, Your Highness." Her entire body shook, tears welling in her eyes. Cariel, taken aback, felt a pang of guilt. Why was she apologizing for breaking a cup? Maintaining a pleasant, almost pageant-like smile, he reassured her, "It's all right. Are you hurt?" But the maid only cried out in increasing distress. Trembling even more violently, her voice dropped to a desperate plea. "I'm sorry. I won't do it again. Please don't whip me like last time. Please." Cariel's forced smile faltered. "Whip?" he asked, his mind screaming, "Please say no. Please say no. Did I whip you before?" The maid straightened, shaking her head. "No, your highness." Hearing the answer he desperately wanted, Cariel placed a hand over his heart, breathing a sigh of relief. Thank heavens. But the maid's next words shattered his composure, sending his world crashing down around him. "You've never whipped anyone yourself." Cariel stammered. "Then I ordered someone else to do it." "What did you do?" The maid hesitated before answering. "I spilled a drop of water on your sleeve." Cariel's mind conjured a disturbing image of the original prince, whip in hand, a cruel smirk twisting his lips. What kind of monster was this prince? Defeated, he slumped onto the bed and dismissed the maid. "All right, you can go. Clean this up." The maid's eyes lit up, her face beaming with relief. Clasping her hands together, she thanked him profusely. Then, she turned and practically fled the room. Cariel watched her go, speechless. She looked like she'd just escaped prison. He called out for Gadin, who quickly appeared. "Yes, your highness?" Cariel feigned a lapse in memory. "My memory has been rather hazy lately. Tell me, what kind of person am I to you and the other servants?" Gadin raised a finger, preparing to launch into a flattering speech. "Well, of course you are." He was cut short by Cariel's threat. "If you flatter me, I'll drink poison right here in front of you." Gadin's jaw dropped in alarm. He quickly adjusted his tone, replying slowly, "Well then, there's no other way to put it, your highness." Alone in the room with Cariel, Gadin began his account. He started with a description of Cariel sitting on his throne, chin resting on his hand, laughing cruelly as he watched someone being whipped. Next, who knows, he might even stop being chivalrous and resort to physical violence against those beautiful young women. And finally, he'd force them to kneel at his feet. Hearing all this made Cariel's head spin. His face paled, his jaw dropped, and he wondered aloud, "Lachiel, what in the world have you done?" He remembered the two guards exchanging glances. "Now I understand why they believe that ridiculous excuse I just gave. It's because I'm insane." He turned to Gadin and asked, "But Gadin," in the room, adorned with a vase of stunning red flowers, he slowly inquired, "Why aren't you afraid of me? You're closest to me, so you must have endured the most." Gadin bowed humbly, placing his hands together in front of him. "Because I believe in you." Cariel, astonished, responded, "Believe in me?" With glistening eyes, Gadin continued, "I know what kind of person you truly are." He recalled a day of pouring rain, when he was younger, frantically searching for the missing Cariel. His eyes widened in surprise at what he saw ahead. There, little Cariel sat beneath a tree, his kind and gentle face shielding a small duckling from the rain. He looked at Cariel with deeply moved eyes, snapping back to the present. Gadin placed a hand on his chest and sincerely declared, "I believe that if we treat you, you can return to being your true self." Cariel, his heart blossoming, smiled and replied, "Thank you." He rose slowly and asked, "Old man, you like the way I've changed?" Gadin cheerfully responded, "Of course, your highness." Cariel glanced at the table laden with food and commanded, "All right, this is your reward. Have some dessert." Gadin stammered, "Your highness," but Cariel interrupted, urging him, "Just eat it." To himself, he vowed, I swear, under the name Lachiel Ariana Magentano, that I won't let you be wrongly accused for my death." His gaze hardened with unwavering determination as he clenched his fist. "I will survive." Suddenly, hurried footsteps sounded outside the large doors. A young man burst in, anxiously calling, "Your highness." Startling Gadin mid-bite, his eyes widened. The young man, breathless, announced, "Your highness, you are summoned." Upon hearing this news, Cariel's face registered shock as he stood frozen in place. And that's it for today's episode of The Crown Prince that sells medicine. If you enjoyed it, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps the channel out. The next episode is already up on the channel, so don't wait. Go watch it right now and keep following the journey of Lloyd's descendant. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next part. Same time, same place.